Hi everyone, this is Lacey Yardy, and this week I'm going to be doing a presentation on William James. So William James was extremely influential in this field of psychology. He was actually at one point referred to as the psychological pope of the New World. His ideas grew into what we later called functionalism, which stresses the role of consciousness and behavior in adapting to the environment. So functionalism basically refers to the functions of the mind that are derived from evolutionary theory. Looking at William James' young life and background, he was born in New York in 1842 to an independently wealthy family. Unfortunately, his father was extremely critical, and at one point when William James had expressed interest in art, he actually moved the family away from the art teacher that had been inspiring William James and threatened to commit suicide if he further continued down that path. So that's unfortunate. At the age of 22, he enrolled in Harvard Medical School and got his degree at the age of 27. In that time period, he did some time abroad and unfortunately got smallpox, which actually later really tremendously affected his physical health. Upon returning to the U.S. and getting his degree, he became very physically ill and depressed, and actually went again overseas to Germany to soak in some mineral pools, which he believed would help heal himself, which is where he then read the essay by Charles Bernard Revere on free will, which he says changed his life. It completely turned around his depression, and later is what developed into his theory of pragmatism. So moving on to some of James's theories. First, let's look at radical empiricism. So radical empiricism means all aspects of human behavior are worthy of study, even if it can't be scientific. So he's not ruling out other recognizable aspects of the human reality, even though they can't be studied in a lab setting. Next, we can look at consciousness. He discussed the stream of consciousness and referred to it as such because he believed that consciousness flows and is constantly changing and cannot be broken up into smaller bits. I did read that somewhere, I think it was like 4 years prior, in the reading it said that there was somebody else who had used the term stream of consciousness prior, so it sounds like there's a little controversy about who used that term first. Next, on habits and instincts, he believed that all behavior is governed by instincts, and he has a lot of advice about habits. He says, habits are new instinct-like patterns that are formed within a lifetime of an animal where neural pathways are strengthened. And then he talks about how to develop good habits through putting yourself in situations that encourage those good habits, not acting contrary to the habits you're trying to develop, committing fully to those habits, and acting like the person that you want to be. So he's kind of got a little framework on how to develop new habits there. Moving on to the empirical self. So the empirical self refers to anything that a person calls their own. And he has 3 different things under the empirical self that he talks about: the material self, which is everything physical that you own; the social self, which is how you're known by others; and the spiritual self, which is a person's state of consciousness. He also refers to the self as the knower, which is a person's awareness of their empirical self. And he also talks a lot about self-esteem, which he then gives that little fraction that we saw with success over pretensions, and says that by increasing the only way to increase self-esteem is to succeed more and to fail less. Moving on to emotions, he has the James Lange theory with another psychologist by the last name of Lange, which talks about emotions, and they believe that people respond when they have an emotional experience. So physical responses precede the appearance of an emotion. So you first have a physical response and then you experience that as an emotion, is James Lange theory of emotion. Talks about free will and the ideomotor theory of behavior, which has explanations of voluntary behavior. And then he also talks about pragmatism, which is being willing to allow both logic and sensory input. So James was extremely influential. He wrote Principles of Psychology and ended up dying in 1910. And the book says that he died in his home in the arms of his wife. But I got all of this information from the lecture and the book, the chapter this week, and the reading, and I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks.